everyone, and welcome to another sewing video. This is just going to be a quick little video of how I made this sort of summer dress that I'm wearing at the moment. I found this pattern in one of the Sewing Bee books, and I thought it would be fun to just make a nice little sort of plain summer dress. So I hope you enjoy. I decided to use this black cotton that I had quite a bit left of, and then also there was this black lace as well, which I'd used for the wrist cuffs, and I really liked it and wanted to use it again. Then I also had to go and pick up a zip, as I only had some quite short zips in my stash. The Sewing Bee book that I have comes with the pattern pieces printed all together on one piece of paper, but they overlap, so they're done in like different colours, so that what you have to do is trace them onto another type of paper and then cut them out from there. So that was the first thing that I had to do. Once I had all the pieces cut out and all the markings transferred, which you can't really see here as I did them quite lightly in pencil, but they are there, I then put them all onto the fabric, as I didn't actually have a lot of this fabric, so I had to try and work out how to fit all the pieces on, and they just about fit. The dress itself was really simple to construct, and the Sewing Bee instructions I found were really nice and clear and simple, so that's always a big help. I did actually overlock all the edges that I knew I wouldn't be needing to adjust for size before starting to construct it, as I thought that might make things a little bit easier on some of the more curved edges. For this project you start with the bodice, and by putting the pleats in that are at the waist, this then means that you can make any size alterations that you need for the top before going onto the skirt. It was a pretty simple and quick construction, but there were a couple of little adjustments that I had to make size wise, especially around the sides, as I felt the top was a little bit too big for me, even though it was the size 6. I spent quite a bit of time adjusting the size with this dress. I do have a mannequin that is adjustable to my size, but it isn't amazing, and sometimes it isn't completely accurate to my size, so this did take a while to do. Once I'd fully adjusted it, I then moved on to the sleeves, which were the next step. These were quite fun to do. I always like making fun, like poofy sleeves. So this is where I started to deviate from the Sewing Bee instructions, as I wanted to add a little bit of lace to the bottom of the sleeves, and so I had to sort of work out how I was going to do that in regards to how the Sewing Bee pattern told you to add the little cuffs onto the end of the sleeves. I was quite happy. It was quite a fun little experiment to do. Once I was happy with the way the little cuffs looked with the lace added to them, it was then time to start adding them onto the bottom of the sleeves, which again was a bit more fun gathering. There was a lot of gathering with this dress, which I quite enjoyed. Most of the gathering that I did on this dress I did by hand, as I was mostly just sort of like sitting doing this as a little project when I didn't want to get my sewing machine out for big things once I'd done the main parts of the dress. With the sleeves finished, it was time to attach them to the bodice, which I also had to do a little bit of adjusting on because I had adjusted the armholes on the bodice, so I did have to do a tiny little bit of adjusting with the sleeves as well. Then it was onto the skirt, which meant a lot more gathering. The skirt for this dress is made up of tiers. I decided to do it with only 2 tiers as I'm quite short, but I still ended up having to adjust the length of the tiers anyway to have the dress sit in a place that I was happy with it. Where the 2 layers of the skirt are attached together, there is an extra piece of fabric that is ruffled that goes over the top of the stitching, that's sort of like a little sort of detail piece, which just adds a little bit of extra sort of dimension to the dress. With the skirt nearly finished, it was time to add the zip into the back, and as always I love putting zips in. I really hate zips, and this one was a bit tricky because there were quite a lot of seams that it had to go over and the gathering and everything, so yeah, that was fun. I ended up having to finish the zip by hand, which I always have to do anyway, just to make it look a bit neater than what it looked with the way I'd done it on the machine. Then with the skirt hemmed, the last thing to do was to finish off the neck. This dress had a sort of lining interfacing section that went around the edge of the neck just to give it a bit more stability and to give it a nicer finish. This was a little bit tricky as the neck was curved, and obviously sort of then trying to fold curved material is always another fun thing. So there are a couple of new things I learnt on this project. This also had to be slightly adjusted because I'd adjusted the size of the dress, so I needed to adjust the size of these pieces as well. But once I'd done that, it was easy to sew in. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you like this dress that I made. I'm quite pleased with it. There are a few things that I might tweak on it a little bit at some point, but mostly I'm quite happy. It's the first time I've made a dress like this, so I felt it went really well, and I felt that the instructions in the sewing bee book were really easy and simple to follow. So if you're thinking of sort of like making yourself some items of clothing and you want some really good books that are really helpful in teaching you how to make sort of like basic items of clothing that can help you build a wardrobe, then definitely check out those books. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!